fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off on the Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off on the Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I'm here today with Evan Lou, Ezra Carter, and Jackie K from MileHighHockey.com. And we are here back and ready to talk Colorado Avalanche hockey with all of you fine folks. Thank you, the three of you, for joining me today.
Of course.
Hello.
We are
Yeah.
finally, the smell of hockey is finally in the air.
It's lingering.
We're now back here weekly until hopefully June.
Right, exactly.
It feels like it. You know how they say Mariah Carey is like de-thawing for Christmas season? It feels like that right now, but for hockey season.
Yeah, it's about when my wife says you bust out the Gilmore Girls binge. So that's usually when hockey rolls around too. So yeah, but like Evan said, we're happy to have you for another Colorado Avalanche season, hopefully into the late nights in the middle of June so we can get back to that beautiful song and those beautiful memories of hoisting a cup. Like I said, this is the Mile High Hockey Lab. If you like what you are hearing or watching, please go give us a follow on X or formerly Twitter. And go check out the website, milehighhockey.com. We've got a bunch of great and wonderful pieces from the three of these fine folks and many more as well. So be sure to smash that like, subscribe, and share button. And I think that we got lots to talk about, so let's just get absolutely right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about was this rookie tournament. And we noticed and have seen a guy that is now being referred to as Ivan Squared scored the game-winning goal for the Avalanche in the rookie tournament. Evan, I'll send it your way just to start things. Is there anyone that stood out to you, or what were you kind of looking for in this tournament this year?
I mean, Ivan is definitely one of the standouts for sure. Another shout out to Jason Poland. I think the consensus might be that Poland maybe gets MVP of the tournament for the Avs, at least, even though he didn't even play game 3.
Right.
Just simply for his tenacity on the ice of throwing the body around, tracking back on defense, leading some rushes, dishing a couple of assists and scoring at once as well. He definitely looked good out there, and I'll leave my last little comment about him until our bold predictions at the very end.
Oh, I love it. That's right. We're getting back to the bold predictions. I'll send this one to you. I saw those videos. I'll send this to you, Ezra, but I saw those videos Evan's kind of referencing about Pauline kind of throwing his body around. Does that surprise you, Ezra? Did you have a beat on him kind of coming into camp, or is that just something that kind of stands out of nowhere?
That's what we wanted to see out of him. I mean, it surprises me how much he was able to deliver, but it doesn't surprise me that that's what he was trying to deliver,
Gotcha.
Because his chance at making the NHL is that bottom six kind of role, that guy who's going to muck things up and make a difference with his body, not necessarily with his skill, although he does have some skill. He was a Hobie Baker finalist when he was in college, so he's got that, but he can't focus on that if he's going to make the league. He's got to focus on throwing his body around, so it was great to see.
Yeah, exactly. If you're bottom six, dude, and you were going to scratch and claw your way into the league and probably to stay in the league, if that's a part of your future, get some tape on X of you throwing the body around and become Twitter famous for like half a day, and you'll be just fine probably for at least a little bit. The rookie tournament is kind of a new thing and a cool thing for me, but it's always like one of those things where it's like you're learning absolutely nothing about the hockey team heading into the season. You're maybe learning something about the prospect pool. Jackie, was there anything that stood out to you in terms of that? Like, did we learn anything about the prospect pool that we didn't already know, in your opinion?
I'd probably say no, just because what happens in this tournament, if you're just talking about relevance to the Avs, is still pretty far away. So
Yeah.
I think it's more relevant to the Eagles. I think
Okay.
with having Schneekloth coming in and as the new head coach, and
Right.
and you're looking at some of their performances, guys that are on the bubble, even for the Eagles. Like, you're looking at Jeremy Hansel. Are they going to give him a contract? Is he going back to junior? Same thing with Ivan. So he does have an AHL contract, but that doesn't mean he's playing for the Eagles. He could be in Utah. I think another guy, Sandelin, he was another one of those college free agents, but he signed an AHL contract. So same question for him. Did he earn himself a job for the Eagles? So that's where I think the relevance of this is a lot more. Like, as far as the Avs are concerned, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's going to matter what they do in main camp, in preseason, etc.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. I will say I was pleasantly surprised to see that, like, I don't know if it's a one-to-one correlation kind of thing because it's hockey and it's just sports in general. Anything can happen on any given night, but it's nice to see basically your draft class go up against other draft class and go undefeated. That makes you feel at least some type of way about the way these players are being selected and kind of the makeup. It seems that at the very least they're striking a balance, one that can compete with the draft classes of other teams. I will say it's already begun. We've already got a heavy dose of Bedard highlights from that rookie camp. If you didn't think that was going to happen, I don't know what to tell you. The kid's supposed to be pretty good, and he's playing against prospects.
Oh yeah,
he's not going to do that ever. If everything goes to plan, this will be the last time he does that. So,
I think. I just want to put an asterisk next to what you said, Adrian, about how it's nice to see like the Avs draft class going against others and going undefeated. It's obviously great and all, but you also have to remember that a good bit of that team was just on tryouts. They were invited, and I think the actual number is like only 7 players were actually drafted by the Avs. Jackie might have that actual number, but
I think you're right. I think it is
7. That's what I thought it was. So it's good that they went undefeated, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, will it lead to something more in their career in an Avalanche or an Eagles or a Grizzlies uniform? I don't know. We'll see about that.
Yeah. I also want to point out, like, they were an older group. I think even Vegas mentioned it after the game that you have guys that are like Malinsky's 25. I think Poland's 24. So that makes a little difference. I'd like to check and see some of those hits Poland delivered on. Were they 18-year-olds?
It kind of felt that way.
Probably.
Because it wasn't like he was screaming. He was like coming in screaming hot. It was just kind of like, whoa, that guy just bounced off of him. So that would make a ton of sense. Yeah.
And I know that they implemented a 100-game limit. So if you play 100 pro games, you can't be in the tournament. And that would have excluded Foudy. I always felt like even if he was ready, he would not have played in this. And so that confirms it for me. Okay. But maybe they should think about an age limit if some of these teams are feeling a little butthurt after this.
Yeah. Ezra, I felt like you were going to add something there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's nice to see like a Malinsky and a Poland dominate a little bit out there.
Yeah.
But it is an age thing. But the thing that it is probably an age thing, I should say. But the thing that this tournament did make me think in a positive direction, I guess, it would be Schneekloth. He took a team that has less talent than most of the other rookie teams and managed to go undefeated. It's one weekend, it's 3 games, but still that's positive for a new coach, and it's going to be a lot of these players playing for him. So it's a good fundamental start,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was just going to say, it was also nice to see the goaltending hold up because they didn't exactly have any, superstars out there. So I think Miner was phenomenal against Arizona.
Miner was excellent against Arizona.
Yeah, he was.
Mhm.
And then Zhigalov did enough to win, and also the other invite in the third game. So I guess if I'm getting back to the original question, what surprised me, it was probably that, because a lot of these guys are a bit unheralded, and they had to do really well in order for them to win these games.
Well, I was just happy to see some Avalanche sweaters being worn. It's always funny to see like other players with the C. You saw some young guys like wearing the captain and the alternate, and it's just in the full threads, and it's like, that's kind of cool. I'm sure they're keeping that jersey. If I'm them, I am. That's for sure. But we'll move on a little bit.
Sam Malinsky could say he was the only captain to play in the 2022.
That's right, exactly.
Season,
that's probably
that's a really good point. That might be the last time we see that C.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of the players that will be playing in the regular season, and I guess what you call the big guns, it seems like most, if not all, of those folks and fellas have returned to skate in Colorado, give or take a few sessions. I'll start with you, Evan. I'll go back to you. This will be the longest offseason the Avs have had in actually 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years at least. Yeah, how much do you think that's going to help this team going into the next season?
I think it kind of depends on the mentality that they have when they come out on Thursday. And what I mean by that is, will it be kind of the same, like this laughing, joking matter of like, oh, we're back or whatever? Or is it going to be that same 2021, 2022 mentality they had before the start of that season, where they're pissed after losing to Vegas, right? They're pissed. McKinnon, I didn't win. Beep, like all that. Are they going to have that mentality, or are they going to have a different mentality? If they have a different mentality, then we'll see kind of how the season goes, right? But if they come in with that 21-22 mentality, I would expect a really hard training camp, but also leading into hopefully a good season after that.
That's a good point and a good question, because and we won't spend too much time on this, it's been a hot topic, but this reminds me of kind of the I guess politics surrounding the CU and CSU Fort Collins game that just kind of went down. Evan, there you are.
Are you trying to push a button right now? Is that
not necessarily, but I'm trying to draw a parallel, because I feel like you're right about the mentality thing. It was pretty clear there were contrasting mentalities on the field in that contest, and I wonder what mentality will garner success, because it's hard to. What I think happened to CU is they tried to make it personal, and it really wasn't. And so their mentality was not valid. And that's kind of why I think they got caught up, because they tried to just do what they did against Nebraska, but it's not Nebraska. So my thing is, where I'm drawing the parallel, I wonder, is, are they even as pissed, just genuinely? Are they as pissed anymore now that they've actually won the Cup? Does that mentality need to shift to more of a mature, I guess, approach? Or is that important, like you're suggesting, that they come in kind of pissed off, because it's an interesting dilemma for sure.
There's a couple things to kind of piggyback off that I'm looking for, not just in like their attitude or their body language or whatever, but two things are, one is, are they going to separate the groups? Because there's always two groups. And last year it was like the NHL team and they were all together. And then the second group was like basically the AHL team, the prospects, whatever. And they just made that separation from day one. And usually it would be mixed. So you'd have like, each group would have like a real NHL line. Like you'd probably have like your first and your third line. The other group would have more like second and fourth. But it was a lot more mixed. So you'd see guys like Foodie and Lausen actually playing with some of these NHL guys, NHL defensemen. But last year they separated immediately, and I don't know if that helped them.
Interesting.
And two, the first group, which was the NHL group, they did not have to do the fitness testing, the on-ice fitness testing. I'm sure they did off-ice, but they did not have to do those skate tests. And
probably the long season, but yeah.
But and so it's understandable because of the short off season and everything, but I'm just curious, what the setup is going to be. Are they going to go back to kind of how it used to be, where it's kind of more like everyone's kind of on the same foot at the camp kind of thing, or are they going to start day one and say like, hey, these are the guys that won the Stanley Cup and everyone else didn't, and make that difference there? Well, I guess not the forwards anymore. All our forwards did win the cup. But, so to me, that's where I'm going to see is how the tone is set.
That's a great, Evan, that's such a wonderful thing to bring up, is their mindset going into this season. Because it's like, you could find a lot to be pissed off, and Ezra, you'll be perfect for this question. But like that Seattle series, that was an emotional series. We saw Cale Makar get suspended. We saw, I can't remember his name. And Tanev, I probably blanked it to save my own mentality. But him blowing a kiss to the fan in the crowd, that still pisses me off. So I'm sure if I have any inclination of what Nathan MacKinnon's personality is like, it probably pisses him off. He's kind of the mentality leader for the Avalanche, I would say. What do you think, Ezra? Like, what does a successful mentality look like going into the season for this Colorado Avalanche team?
Well, I mean, I think what we saw in the year they won the Cup, the successful mentality was all business. This is our year. We're going to do this right now. And that's what I'd like to see them get back to, because I do feel like they came in with that last year, but as injuries mounted, it was easy for us to see them kind of faltering a little bit on that and falling into a little bit of we're kind of boned here, so what are we going to do? Kind of not that they would ever admit to that or have honestly thought about it consciously. They're professional athletes, but I'm sure that was keeping in there a little bit.
Yeah, and you can see it physically in their body language, like you mentioned, that there was kind of parts of that. We saw them play games and lose in ways that they hadn't lost in 3 or 4 years. And I think that's going to wear on you no matter what.
Yeah, so I just think they need to get back to that all-business mentality, and I really do think a chip on the shoulder from last year's season is going to help them do that. I can't imagine, like you were saying, and not taking all of that a little bit personally. So I'm sure he's going to lead the charge on that, like you said. But everybody needs to step up and bring that professional attitude that Gabe Landeskog was so good at bringing on their own a little bit, because he's not going to be there to do it for him.
That's what I think too. I think that it's less about the being longing for revenge or retribution, and it's more about getting back to that culture of like, we're just the best, and so we're going to be the best. And if you think back to that Avs success and that run, there were games when they were getting poked and prodded, and they just didn't really take the bait. We didn't see MacKinnon doing the stuff he did, against Arizona, where he's throwing the lid and yelling at the referees. There was a lot of him just getting up, skating away in the year that they won. And I think that speaks to that mentality you're talking about, that professionalism. It's like, none of this other stuff really matters. It's the overall goal that matters. Let's keep that in the focus and not get too emotional. Get emotionally tied to the result, but not into the moment. And I think that's pretty smart way of putting it by you, Ezra, for sure. It's just to be professional. So a part of being professional and a part of that is going to be handling how they deal with injuries probably again this season. One is kind of sparking up a little bit earlier than we expected. Pavel Francouz is rumored to be on the mend again. It looks like the Avs might acquire a goalie on the open market or via trade, but gosh, do we really have to trade picks for another third goalie? Evan, what do you think?
They shouldn't. They really shouldn't. And I mean, they literally just happened right before we hit live on our show that Casey DeSmith, one of the options that was maybe a possibility, is in Vancouver. So there's one less, I guess, meme we have to worry about there. But no, they shouldn't. They should not go on the trade onto the market or onto like try and make a trade with somebody. They should just wait until the waivers start popping up, because before you know it, Jonas Johansson will be an Avalanche member again.
Yeah, well, Hutch is a free agent.
Hutch is a free agent. I know. Well, it just has happened for the last 2 years that Johansson has ended up being an Avalanche off waivers, right? So third time's a charm, right? But no, seriously, like even if it's not Johansson, somebody else will likely come up. and depending on the severity of Francouz's recovery from his surgery in May, we'll give them a little bit of wiggle space in terms of if they want to send him on LTIR and use some of his cap space, or however it all works out.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, a lot of people think the other option is obviously to have Eustace and give it a go. Jackie, what do you think about that? Is he ready to give that a shot, or should the Avs be confident, or are we going to be watching him pretty closely in camp?
I don't think the Avs really consider that a viable option, really.
Okay.
If it was something where like Francouz was out a couple weeks, considering their schedule, they probably won't even use the backup early on because the schedule's pretty spread out. And so if we're even talking about acquiring a goalie and the rumors are out there, then they're not going to go in that direction. McFarland had some interesting comments over the weekend, like he doesn't consider a goalie ready until he's played 200 games, and he said Annanen's played 100, so I guess that doesn't even mean Finland counts. So, I mean, he's the one that said it, so that's the way that he's looking at it. Then
you're just finding more games. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that for a goalie, that's 2 more years. And he did say that he knows Annanen is going to need waivers next year, and they're going to have to figure out, where he stands in the organization after this year. But as far as right now, like, he's not an option. I don't think at all. I think if he could be the number 3, I think it's going to be a competition between him and that new guy, Arvid Holm, that they got from Winnipeg. So that's kind of what he's looking at right now. I just don't really think that that's really much of a consideration.
Yeah, based on your comments about McFarland, I think you're probably right. Like, he's just sees him as a 3 right now, ceiling of a 3. So I guess that does mean we're either going to sign somebody. I hope you're right, Evan. I think that's the smart move. We ride Georgiev as long as you can. See who comes up on the waiver wires. You might be surprised who there is. There might be some veteran guys who just technically retired that might still be in shape that want to come back. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So long as it's not Mike Smith, please.
Exactly. Not Mike Smith.
But no, I forgot.
Maybe they can claim Martin Jones.
It's what I was thinking.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that one. I completely forgot about Arvid Holm. I forgot he existed, and I did the exact same thing when creating our top 25 over the summer. So I guess you could maybe roll with Arvid Holm as a second, because he played with the Jets last year, at least a little bit, but I'm not very comfortable with that either, and I don't know if McFarland would be either.
Well, I imagine that McFarland's. Go ahead, Jackie.
I was just gonna say I like the waivers idea too, because you need a guy for the NHL right now, and usually that's the problem with waivers is like you take someone but you have to keep them on the roster. It's like, well, in this situation, that's what they need.
Works. Yeah,
and I don't think putting Francouz on LTIR is going to be a problem. Like, he's going to be out more than 3 weeks, so I don't think they need to worry about that. And usually they trade for a guy that's cleared waivers so they can stash him until they need him. And it's like, that shouldn't be the case this time. And
because we'll need him right away.
And this isn't new. Like, if they needed a full real backup, they had like a month already to sign guy, and they haven't. So I just think the situation's strange. Like, people are acting like this happened like 3 days ago, and it hasn't. So
they've known about it this whole time.
So hopefully they have a plan, and I do hope it's waivers. To me, that sounds like the best option. I know it's kind of unpredictable, but basically every single team is going to have to waive their 3rd goaltender, so you'll be able to get one.
It's unpredictable, but it's really not unpredictable, because you can see which teams are going to be putting somebody through waivers just by looking at cap friendly
numbers.
Right now. And you can choose, like, okay, if that guy goes through, we want him. If he doesn't, we'll go for that guy. And most other teams don't need to claim a goalie, so they're probably going to get through. It is pretty predictable. I haven't gone through and looked, but maybe I will. That sounds like
Here we go.
Yeah. I haven't written in a while. I should probably do that. But I also think, like, an added bonus of waiting for waivers is you get to see what Arvid Holm and Justus Annunen look like in this preseason. And if one of them looks like they'll take the job for a couple weeks and be fine, maybe that's what happens. So it gives them an opportunity to prove themselves without somebody else in the way. And if somebody else needs to come in, they're right there. So
yeah, good point. It's an opportunity because we'll be keeping a close eye on a lot of situations at camp, whether it be how Druin fits in, how Johansson fits in as 2C, and obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on this goalie situation. Evan, what are you most curious about heading into camp? Is it like who's going to perform well, the line combinations? What is it to you that like you're really keen on us heading into camp?
Yeah, here real quickly, I just want to touch back on the Francois thing, just really quickly before I go answer the question. But like ultimately, it just sucks for Francois to go through this, right?
Yeah.
Just because he's dealt with it ever since he signed that new contract, and now going into that last year of his contract at, I believe he's 33 years old, is definitely not ideal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in the offseason. But besides that, to answer the question about this offseason and what I'm watching for at camp, I'm really looking forward to what Tomas Tatar will bring. I think he's kind of the new flashy move, I guess you could say, besides the Johansson move earlier this summer, where like I'm intrigued on where he'll fit in, right? Will he be on the wing? Will he be in the middle? Right? There's already a good number of centers already in this team. Will he be on the third line? Could he challenge for the second line? All these sorts of things that'll really be intriguing to watch. I mean, all I can see right now are all of the X posts of that third line of Ross Colton, Miles Wood, and Tomas Tatar, and I'm just foaming at the mouth of how good
it really is crazy. And when you add like Landeskog and Kovalenko into the mix of the future, potentially, even if you take Landeskog out, you start to have that problem you had in 2021-22, where you're like, who goes where? So, especially like say the Avalanche do what. We'll get into my confidence polls later, but what a lot of fans are confident they will do, which is kind of resurrect the career of Jonathan Drouin. We're talking about having a pretty stacked forward group if he's up to what he could possibly be. And I'm trying to pull up career stats to compare between Tomas Tatar and Andrei Burakovsky. And they're very similar in terms of production, especially goal-wise. Tomas Tatar, he's been a 20-goal scorer 6 times. Andrei Burakovsky has been a 20-goal scorer 1, 2, 3. I'll give him 4-ish times, but he has obviously a shorter career. So I'm like, in terms of supplementing scoring that we kind of lost last year, I think Tomas Tatar is an awesome addition. And he's somebody that I'm very interested in seeing how he works in camp. Again, back to Jonathan Drouin, same with him. Jackie, is there anyone other than those two that you're like really focused on heading into camp?
This isn't going to shock anybody, but probably the younger guys, because I feel like all the new additions that we know for sure are going to be on the Avalanche. I think it's more about what they're going to do through the whole season. I don't think camp is so much as important. I mean, we'll be interested to see what their first line combinations are and everything, but they're still veterans. It's still training camp. I don't know. For me, I don't think that's as interesting other than just like, what do these guys look like on the ice? But the young guys, like the camp is just so critical to set them up for even having a chance at all during the whole year. So I want to see, like I mentioned earlier, are the young guys even allowed to be in camp with the NHL veterans? Does anybody get a really good opportunity? Is anybody getting a look on, say, a real NHL line? As fun as it could be to say like Foodie with McKinnon, we know that's not realistic, but is he being looked at on the Avs' third or fourth line? That could be interesting. So for me, that's kind of like where the importance of camp lies.
I noticed now that you mentioned the young guys, Pavel, he didn't play in I think the last 2 or 3 rookie camp games.
He didn't
I
play
wondered-
any.
Okay, so none of them. So
didn't.
that feels more like insulating him rather than there being an issue. Am I wrong
Well,
about
it
that?
depends. I mean, I would definitely say there was an issue, but will it prevent him from participating? I guess we'll find out.
Okay.
And also, Foodie, like I know he's kind of iffy, but he's been practicing for the bulk of at least over a week. It could be possible that he's ready. But yeah, especially if something's wrong with Pavel. Poland is now injured. I read some comment that he was taken to the hospital, so it probably doesn't sound like he's going to at least be there at the beginning of camp, but who knows? So yeah, who is even going to get that opportunity to have a look? Is it just Alausen? It could be just him.
Yeah.
And Malinsky. I think he didn't play the last game as a night off. I'm not worried about him. So
Okay.
He'll be another one that they'll be interested to see who they pair him up with. Like how serious do they take it? Also, a big thing I look for is their numbers. Like if he sticks with 70 in main camp, I mean, as silly as it sounds, it really has proven true. Like, do these guys get real numbers or not? And like you often can tell, like Kerfoot had a real number in his first camp. O'Connor, it's kind of telling.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Well, Ezra, Evan is keen on how Tatar will do. Jackie, no surprise, is really excited to see how the young guys slotted and how the organizational structure of practice will look in terms of reps. Who's sticking out to you? Who do you have an eye on heading into camp?
For me, it's that bottom pair defensively. I want to see if Josh Manson looks like he's going to be healthy. I want to see if Sam Malinsky is going to take Jack Johnson's job. I don't think he is. I think it's a long shot, but he played well in that rookie tournament. He clearly has the trust of leadership, getting to wear the C in that. I think that's what I want. I want to see Sam Malinsky force his way onto this roster. That's what I'm looking out for. What's going to be the bottom pair? Because, again, Josh Manson obviously has high-end capability as a bottom pair defenseman. I would love for him to be healthy and be able to do it. Jack Johnson has been a great story for us, but do you really want him playing 82 games?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I love him as
that
a
might
seven.
not be a great story for very long if he's on the ice.
Exactly. Again, I love him as a 7. I don't love him as a 6. And right now,
Exactly.
7 is technically Curtis McDermott.
I was about to call you out, Ezra. I was going to say, do you really want Curtis McDermott to play?
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I want to see what Sam Malinsky can do with the big boys.
That helps.
Okay, fair enough.
And I want to see Josh Manson be healthy. Number one, first and foremost, I want everybody to be healthy. But yeah, I'm curious what that looks like. Do we see Brad Hunt getting a lot of time with the NHL group? If it does break down that way instead of somebody like Malinsky, I don't know. But how that bottom pair shakes out, because that's really the only question mark on defense. Obviously, our top 4 is amazing. Feel great about that. And the forward group is going to come down to who figures out their spot on the second line and who figures out that they're going to be a third liner. But but that bottom line on D is the big question mark for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got a lot of action on my Tays pricing himself out of Colorado article, and that was one of the things I talked about, was that if the Avs are smart, they need to find that 5 through 7B internally. And it's not so much as being smart as it is being fortunate. So if Malinsky can elevate his game, and the Avs are fortunate enough to reap the benefits of that and find that 5 through 7D internally, and then have a little bit of depth like Jack Johnson or Brad Hunt after that, I think that bodes well for them being a contender again. Because if you think back and remember, Jack Johnson was 7D when the Avs won the Cup. So it balances out that way, I think, best. That is probably his ceiling in terms of role. If he's doing anything more than that, I think we have problems on that bottom pair. But just to give my 2 cents, I've totally just overdosed on the hopium around Jonathan Drouin. And I just feel like there's just too many layers behind the scenes for it not to work even just a little bit for a short period of time or a long period of time. I think at the very least, we'll see a 1 to 2 month window of games where it really works. Now, if it's sustainable, that's a totally different question for me. And I think we'll start to see just how that situation is viewed, not only by the coaching staff, but among the team in how he's used in camp and in the preseason. Because if he's skating a lot in the games in particular, to me that says they're still not quite sold on him. But if he gets similar time to the guys that they probably are just mostly protecting, then I think they see something that I'm excited and hopeful for. So I'm kind of focused on Drew Wynn and how he slots in with the McKinnon bromance story. I know that's like the taboo one these days. People are like calling us crazy, but it's a good segue because I did a confidence poll on X, and Elon Musk said he was going to get rid of those polls like 7 months ago. So hopefully he's lying about putting a paywall on X as well, just like he lied about that. But I did this confidence poll, and I'm going to pull it up real quick just so that I have a reference and can actually talk about the topic. But basically, I laid out a bunch of different situations based on kind of who they brought in, some situations with injuries, a.k.a. Gabe Landeskog, and I just wanted to see how Avalanche fans felt kind of on a percentage basis heading into the season. So I'll start with the very first one, which was, if I can get the screen. All right. How confident, perfect segue. How confident are you in Jonathan Drouin becoming an impactful player this season? So we got 64.7% of the vote to confident. And if you add 12.5% to that, was very confident, that brings you to a total of about 77% of people, I should say Avalanche fans more than likely, are confident that Jonathan Drouin experiment will work. Evan, what are your thoughts? And what was your answer?
I had to go back and go find this poll so I could remember my answer. I put confident,
Okay.
and so I'm with the majority in this
Gotcha.
in this poll at least. I'm kind of in agreement with you that that there might be like a good month or two for him at least. I don't think he's going to start off great. Just to be honest, I think it'll take a little bit of time, at least for him to kind of get into the swing of things, into the Avalanche system. Just kind of how it is with every player that comes into the system. But if he is paired with Nathan McKinnon, maybe that acceleration of fitting into the system will go quicker, right? So then maybe by the time November, December roll around, he'll be having that 1 to 2 month really good streak versus in January or February. So I'm pretty confident in his season. I think he'll get at least, if he's playing on that first line, I think he has to get at least like 40 points minimum, right? I feel like that's a good benchmark. And we'll see kind of what happens and how he fits in starting at camp.
But Ezra, you predicted in the awesome written form of bold predictions that Jackie had put forward that you think Jonathan Drouin is going to, I think he said 40 points, but mostly assists, right? Is what you said?
Yeah, I think I said 60 points, mostly assists.
60, okay, yeah.
I'm very confident that he's going to be impactful. I think whether it is just as a power play distributor or an even strength contributor, I think he's going to have a big year in terms of assists. I don't think he's going to score very much. I don't think he's going to be very good defensively, but I think he's going to have a good impact on the team overall.
And I like that. Yeah, and the way I set this up was you had 4 choices: very confident, confident, not confident, and very not confident. So that's why, Ezra, you said you were very confident. I assume that was your vote. I'm just going to rattle off some of the other ones real quick, Jackie, and then I'll let you tell me which one is kind of most shocking to you. So I did. How confident are you that Ryan Johansson can fulfill and excel at 2C? It looks like 71-ish% of fans say they're confident. So pretty confident there. How confident are you that Ross Colton can replace JT Compher? 95% of fans are confident that can happen. How confident are you that Tomas Tatar will score 20-plus goals this season? 82% of fans are confident that will happen. How confident are you that Miles Wood will live up to the terms of his contract? I think my question kind of told you how I voted. But this one's kind of close. It's 55% of people say he will live up to the contract. Obviously, we can get into explaining what that meant. But then we had how confident are you that Gabe will return? 54% of people are not very confident, which is the lowest confidence vote you could have made. And then last, how confident are you of the impact of Kovalenko upon his arrival in the NHL? And 75% of fans are confident that he will have a strong impact. So what stands out to you among that giant list of words and choices?
Well, I definitely think the Miles Wood answer, right? Like that was almost completely split. And there's definitely a lot of interpretation of what living up to the contract means. So maybe that trended it more towards that 50-50 split. But it was the one that there wasn't a clear consensus. So to me, that one stood out. And, I think to answer this question, I think I said I was confident, but, it could really go either way. I mean, 6 years is a long time to sign anybody. I mean, and especially somebody that's never played on your team. I think his game's pretty well defined. I'm not really worried that, he's not going to be the guy they thought they were getting. I think he's pretty much going to be what they were getting. But to sign anybody that's never been on your team, I don't know. I still think it's a little weird, but I think he'll probably be fine. So that's kind of where I ended up as confident. But I guess it was interesting that people are so split on the perception of what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah, and that was kind of why I mentioned, my question itself kind of probably pervade my answer, which probably, like you said, skewed maybe the answer itself. But the reason I put it that way is the 6 years, and it's just such a weird contract, one that I just totally did not expect. And I think if I'm answering somebody say, okay, well, what does living up to the contract mean? Is he going to be on the ice for 6 years, consistently? Because if you're giving a guy a 6-year contract, yeah, exactly. If anybody knows that anything can change, it's the Avalanche fans. I mean, we went from celebrating a Stanley Cup with our captain to not playing with him for 2 straight years. So to me, that year kind of stood out to me. And then the other thing that stood out to me, getting back to Landeskog, is, man, fans are really down in the dumps about that situation. Only 16% of fans are confident he'll return for the playoffs, despite the fact that we've heard GM Chris McFarland say that he's hopeful he'll return. I know that the word hopeful is almost like saying he doesn't think it'll happen, but he really is hoping and wishing on his lucky stars that it will. Evan, is that how you interpreted that? And are you surprised at how not very confident the Avalanche fans are in his return for the playoffs?
I'm not surprised because I myself am not super confident. And I mentioned it in the article that I wrote about Landeskog is, where have we heard this story before, right? Mm-hmm. Avalanche hope for a November-December return, hopeful for a March return. Oh, they shut him down for playoffs. Well, let's hope he's back for next season. Oh, nope, he's out. Let's hopefully he's back for the playoffs of next season. So we've been through this, multiple times now, right? There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to this surgery, not the surgery itself, but the recovery process of it. And if you can get back to being that elite athlete that you once were, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's mostly I think most of the vote comes off of the fact of that uncertainty. I think that's mostly what it is. Because sure, I have the little thought in the back of my head and my heart, and it's like, he's gonna come back in April, game 1 for the first round. He's gonna be there. But the head says otherwise, and I think that might be the case for a lot of people.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you bring up that we've been through this before, because Jackie, you and I have talked about how we almost wonder if last year it would have been better to kind of resign to the fact that Landeskog wasn't going to play even in the playoffs, just for the mentality of the team, and also kind of strategically. Do you still think that that's true this season? Should we just kind of get over it? Oh, Jackie's not there.
Oh no, I'm here.
Should we get over it if we're approaching playoff time and it's still feeling like he's not coming around? Do you think that they should put their foot in the ground and say he's not coming back?
Well, at least we have the clarity that he's on LTIR and they used the money,
Right.
so at least they made it to that point. I don't know. I think we'll get some hints, like, is he on the ice? Is he in town?
Right.
Some of those things might indicate that it's becoming more of a possibility. I just think they don't want to rule it out, and that's fine. Like, if it's helpful for him to have a goal, that's okay too. I would say it's a pretty big long shot, and I don't think anything's changed. I really don't think he's going to know until he gets on the ice. So when that is going to be, who knows? But I just think at this point, it's just like sometimes all you ever have is hope, right? So I don't really think it means much.
That's what it feels like. Is, oh man, I hope.
I mean, sure, they don't want to rule it out. He can, it's not about, it won't impact the cap. And, I know other people will laugh and say, oh, the Avs are doing it too. I mean, the guy didn't play for 2 years. So it's not like they're trying to pull any funny business. Yeah. So to me, it's just way too early to even try to feel out what's going to go on here. I do feel like he's going to try to play at some point.
Absolutely.
Maybe even next year. I don't see him retiring without trying.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not going to be a matter of like, oh, he's better or not better. Like, there's a range. Sometimes you have to accept where you're at. Let's say he feels 80%. Is he going to try to play? And I think he will.
Be the new normal. Yeah.
Try. Exactly. Like, sometimes you just have to accept your reality and see if that still means he's a viable hockey player. So,
yeah.
But, would he do that in the playoffs? He probably has to feel pretty good to return in the playoffs. So I don't think we're quite there yet.
Well, and Ezra, I'll take your comments on the Landeskog lack of confidence, but then I also want to two-part you and have you comment a little bit on the bullishness of the Kovalenko confidence, and tell me if you are in that party as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with Landeskog. I think we should count him out because just like, let's set ourselves up not to be disappointed. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
If he comes back, what a gift, what a great birthday present or whatever.
Merry Christmas in April.
What a great Easter egg we've discovered. Let's not set ourselves up for disappointment again, because that last season, waiting on him to come back and having it
brutal
pushback was horrible. And frankly, we could be looking at a Forsberg foot situation with this Landeskog knee that just drags on, and he's never the same guy, but he's still the guy we love, and we want to see him play, and we want to see him happy. And I think if that is how it goes, hopefully he doesn't end up in Philadelphia and Nashville.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
that's great.
But I wish him the best, and I'm assuming I'm not going to see him until next year. For Kovalenko, that's a guy I'm assuming I'm going to see this year, and I'm excited about it. I don't know what he can do, frankly, at the NHL level, coming across, having never played in North America. I don't have sky-high hopes, but I do have high hopes that he can contribute in some way in the bottom six. And if he ends up being more than that, another Easter egg we've discovered. How great.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to get my hopes up because I don't want to be disappointed. So both of these guys, I'm taking the pessimistic view, and I'm happy to be wrong about it. Usually I'm an optimist, but I think that's how I'm feeling about these guys.
Yeah, you've gone through too much trauma with the Gabe Landeskog situation to be optimistic any longer.
And the Forsberg one, man, that was tough.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a part of the show where we'll do our bold predictions, and then I want to open it up just to you all to see if we haven't covered anything. So we'll start with bold predictions, and we'll start with managing editor, Mr. Evan Liu. Hit us with your very first bold prediction of the new season heading into camp next week.
Yeah, so I mean, I teased mine at the very beginning, right? I'm hesitant now if I actually want to do it or not. If
we talk too much.
Yeah, no. If those comments about Jason Poland going to the hospital are true, because it's my bold prediction surrounded him. But you know what? We're gonna stay on the optimist side, and we're gonna hope that whoever said those comments, it's not true.
Not true.
And hope that he's on the ice starting on Thursday. So that, of course, that bold prediction surrounds Jason Poland. My bold prediction is that he beats out Ben Myers and Frederick Olofsson for a spot on the opening night roster.
Wow. That would be
If he's healthy. If he asterisk if.
yeah. I'll just put you down as Jason it said autocorrected to Polish. I wonder how many times that'll happen. Jason Poland beats out competition to make opening night roster, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
That's if he's healthy. If not, that might just go down the drain, and we're just going to get all the bad ones out of the way before the season.
Should I put if healthy in parentheses?
Yes,
parenthetical?
Please. Because this could all be wasted by the time Thursday starts. Who knows? Or even tomorrow's media day. It might be all gone by Wednesday.
You might find out tomorrow. Okay, I got you down. Jackie, what's your bold prediction this week?
So this is training camp related. Gosh, I feel like they know everything. That's really tough for me. The bold prediction is we'll be surprised that somebody is a no-go on day one of camp. And I'm not going to say names, but there'll be somebody.
Jackie's bold prediction. Basically, you're saying we'll see a surprise injury.
Yeah.
I was going to say somebody besides Francouz because we already know that.
Right. Yes. Okay. Francouz does not count. But
I was going to say, are you getting an easy one there? Just kidding.
And no, I'm not picking like Pavel or Poland. I'm talking about somebody on the Avs roster that people expect to play opening night will not be ready to go.
Opening night.
Okay. Yeah. That we expect to play. I'm just saying like somebody that we know is on the roster, an Avalanche regular is going to be a surprise no-go on day one.
Right. Excuse me. All right, so I got you down on that one.
Why depress me like that?
Right. We will be made aware of a surprise no-go on opening night, according to Jack. So that one.
Well, I don't know if they say that on day one. I'm just saying that they will not be on the ice day one camp.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right, Ezra, let's see what you got.
Man, I really want to predict that Malinsky makes the roster, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to earn it, but then not get it. I think the same about Hansel. He's going to earn a contract and not get it. So I'm going to go with Saku Menelainen makes the roster.
Oh my God, you're going to make me spell that on Twitter.
Yeah, that's exactly why. No, I think he just is the kind of big body guy that they want to have in the bottom six, and I think he brings a little bit more to that role than like a Kiviranta or Cogliano even, although Cogliano is going to also be on the roster. But
I forgot about Kiviranta. Goodness.
Yeah, Kiviranta is not going to make it. That's not a bold prediction. But Menelainen I think is. I'll go with that.
All I got back from Google searching him was Joe Sacco, so I don't know.
I think it's
I'll type it for you.
I think what makes it weird is it's MAE.
I feel like
that would be awesome though if that happened as well, because the Avs are desperate for somebody to just make the team that isn't supposed to. In my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they came up with 3 PTOs and they're forwards. I don't know. It's just a little strange to me. I guess they really do want to have competition for that last spot. But I mean, come on, they gave Myers a one-way contract. They're not cutting him, right?
No.
So I really don't know what the point of all of it is. And no PTO goalie, no PTO defenseman. I find it a little strange, but hopefully it will be made clear.
I think it's a commitment not to put McDermott at forward.
They should definitely just stop doing that.
Yeah, I really think that's
please, Lord.
They should just
given that they aren't able to accumulate cap space because they have LTIR, they can have a full roster. They don't need to save that, keep an empty roster spot, which they did all year last year. So I think there's a chance for one extra guy to make the team this year that wouldn't have made it last year. So I kind of get it, but I'm with you. If the depth and defense is the bigger concern, but if they're committed to having, God, I can't even say his name. If they're committed to having McDermott in the lineup, or at least in the locker room, then they're committed.
Yeah, it would be nice if they carried an extra real forward. That would certainly be. Like, I'm assuming they're going to carry just 21, but yeah, if they have the money for it.
There's a reason to do it, which is please stop putting Curtis McDermott out forward. So that's really you had me at hello with that one.
I can feel the tension between Ezra and Curtis McDermott right now, and it is quite funny.
I bet he doesn't want to play forward anymore. Like, I'm pretty sure every single point that he scored with the Avs has been as a defenseman. Like, you can't just decide somebody can play forward just because he's like one of your fringe depth guys. Like, it's not fair to him. So I don't even think it's being mean to McDermott to say that. Like, it's not fair to him. He's not a forward. Just stop. Like, it's not helping him. Like, I'm sure he likes playing, but I bet if he was honest, he would be like, yeah, I'm kind of over it.
Fair.
I would be.
And he had moments last year where he looked like he really figured out how to play defense in the system. Obviously, I don't want him to have to prove that again, but he really did have a few games towards the end of the season where I was like, okay, maybe he's got something here.
I think the crazy thing is that he, as a defenseman, he does look okay doing offense. Like, not that he really has the skill, but he does get it. Like, he gets what they're trying to do offensively as a defenseman. And so then when you put him at forward, you just like are really.
I think he's a guy. I think he's a guy who's going to have a long career in coaching. I don't know that he'll be like a great head coach or anything, but I think he'll be one of those like bottom of the lineup guys who ends up, because he had to be smarter than everyone to keep up, he ends up coaching, kind of like a Brad Richardson or something like that. Who obviously was a better player, but still.
You can see that.
He's got a brain. He's just, well, hopefully he doesn't get too many concussions and ruin that, but he's got a brain. And he just doesn't quite have the foot speed or the hand skill to make it in the NHL, but he's a smart player, which is hard for me to say because I just don't want him on the roster, but it's true. I don't dislike him as a person, but I don't know him as a person, obviously. But
I hear you.
Yeah.
So I think there's a few things I want to touch on as we wrap up here. I guess 3 things. One, we still have a Twitter or X giveaway to do, right, Adrian?
Yes. Good.
Great. So we'll do that. We'll do that at the end.
That's why they give you the big bucks, guy. Yes.
I remember my thing. I'll let you do that then while we discuss the next 2 things. I just quickly want to announce that we've created a new website, puckyeti.com, with the rest of the SB Nation sites who were cut earlier in the spring. You can check them out just at puckyeti.com, nice and easy. And to get away from that real quickly, because we have not talked enough about this guy, and we meant to in our last podcast, and we completely forgot about it because it was right after his signing, Nikolai Kovalenko, and what he'll bring to the team in, I guess, March, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I'll get here. And I know Jackie knows probably about Kovalenko the most out of any of us. And with Torpedo season just starting in the KHL, I believe last week, 2 weeks ago now at this point, he's gotten off to a really good start there. Right, Jackie?
Yeah, they started, I think the season started September 1st. I'm not sure he played on that day, but yeah, basically since the beginning of the month. I'm super excited. Like, I've been watching Kovalenko for years. I watched him when he still played in the MHL, when he was at the World Juniors. Like, I kind of gave up on it when he was traded to his 3rd team and signed with them, and it was like, okay, well, maybe it's not going to happen, but he just always wanted to really establish himself as a top KHL player, and like, it finally happened. So it looks like he's picking up where he left off last year. I don't think that's going to be a concern that it was a flash in the pan or anything. I think he's like 8 points in 6 or 7 games, something like that. But he's just so effective. Like, anybody that hasn't watched him play, like he's just so fun. He just is a wrecking ball. He's so aggressive. He's a great forechecker. He's a little kamikaze. He can be maybe a little reckless. Like that's some of the things you're gonna have to watch out for. Like he's gonna take a few penalties. I think Benner's just gonna have to live with it. But like those are the things that I've always been excited about that he could do in the NHL. It has nothing to do with production or fitting in like that. Those are things that you can do in any league. It's forecheck and create pressure and things like that. But he's a good passer. He can shoot. He can do a little bit of everything. He's really good in the shootouts. Watch out for that when he comes over. If they have the guts to use him, he's been a very good shootout player his entire career.
Interesting.
So I'm hoping for like a third line role. I think he could fit in there, and then we'll see. But I think the Avs are going to use him. I think that's the intention. He's going to be 24 years old. So, I mean, it's just be exciting to watch him. Pray for no injuries because he plays a little rough, let's just say. So he's not out of the injury scare realm, let's just say that. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about him. I've just always been a fan, and it's gonna happen. So that's pretty cool.
I think I was interested in more so kind of where he would end up in the lineup because I heard like second line. So you think more third line?
I think more third line. I guess if he's more of a middle six, like you can put him up in the lineup kind of guy. That'd be cool, but I don't think that's their intention. And if you put him on the second line, then that's a lot of pressure to produce. And I don't think you want to give him that pressure at least right away. Because he's going to have to, like, he's going to need games. He's going to have to stick. Like, we hope this isn't a short experiment, right? Like, he fits in the team, and then he's going to play at the end of this year. You think he's going to play next year. And then at that point, you really have a good handle on, like, what is he going to mean for us in the future? But I think if he's, like, a solid, good third line, can be part of a productive third line, score 30, 40 points, hope anything you get more than that, it's pretty cool too. So that's just kind of what I expect.
I think go ahead. I was gonna say the last thing that came to my mind just right now. If a player needs to English, Evan. if a player is going to play in the playoffs, they need to be on the roster by the trade deadline, right? Am I not crazy by thinking that, or am I making that up?
It's the reserve list. So he's okay because he's on the reserve list. And the other thing is he's signed. So
okay, so it won't matter regardless. Okay.
Yeah, because they loaned him. So I think he's technically part of the team in a way, but also it doesn't matter because he's a draft pick and he's on the reserve. He was on the reserve list. So that shouldn't be any concern. That's why they like signed him and loaned him back, I think, is just to get rid of like any of that red tape. And especially politically, you don't see a lot of Russians. I can't think of a single one that since the war started that's come over at the end of the season.
Interesting.
So I don't know if there's a political reason or some other, like his KHL team seems very supportive, and that's amazing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they could get through all the red tape and the politics and et cetera. So the fact that he's already signed to the Avs gives them a whole lot more control, and it should be just as simple as him getting on a plane and getting over here. Like, and it eliminates everything that needs to be done.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we followed Valeri Nichushkin's travels from Russia to North America on Instagram. He was posting some pictures of his travels, and so it'll be interesting to see how the two of those two gentlemen kind of jive together once Kovalenko does come to town. We see Nichushkin kind of show him the ropes, so to speak, in terms of the North American game and kind of just the little minutiae of playing in the NHL that maybe guys in the KHL don't quite understand yet. So that'll be interesting to see. I know, too, just add a little nugget that today on Altitude Sports Radio's morning show, Vic Lombardi mentioned that Nichushkin will be addressing the media soon. They haven't announced a specific
Thursday.
day. Thursday? They did?
Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Peter Boss said it Thursday.
Gotcha.
And before we get questions about it, he more likely than not will not share much more than we've already learned. So just prepare yourselves.
But you'll be getting what you've wanted, which is for it to be addressed, which I think a lot of fans have called for. But let's get on a happy note real quick, and let's give away some Colorado Avalanche preseason tickets. We're giving away 2 tickets to the folks who are smart enough and awesome enough to follow us on X, and they also tagged a friend. And so I'm going to bust out the trusty wheel again, because you know how much fun that thing is.
If you want it next time, follow them below. They're right
yeah,
here.
exactly. We're going to do these quite a bit throughout the year. So if you want to win Avalanche tickets, go smash the follow and tune into our program. I'm going to hit this spin button. I got all the names in there. Here we go.
Oh, it makes the sound. I forgot it makes that sound.
Oh.
Seji, you have won 2 tickets to the Colorado Avalanche preseason opener against the Minnesota Wild. I will be in touch with you on Twitter. I will get your email address, and we will get those tickets sent your way. Like Evan mentioned, and I just said before, if you don't follow us on X, you're kind of crazy, because as you could see, you could go to a free game, and that's just nothing better than that. And this isn't club level, guys. This isn't no 300 stuff. You're going to be having a good time. It's going to be a great experience. So thank you very much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Right now, we're still trying to get ourselves back onto streaming platforms. We're having a little bit of issues with the software and the products we use to do that. But you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on X. And you can catch us on Twitch as well. So head on over there and do so. I'm Adrian Hernandez here with Ezra, Jackie, and Evan. This is the Mile High Hockey Lab. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next week, we'll probably do it on Monday. We'll talk. We'll see you then.